Hi, I'm Dr. Chad Larson. Have you noticed that this flu season is a particularly tough one? I'm in healthcare, so maybe I see a little bit more sick people than most, but even talking to friends and neighbors, this has been a pretty tough flu season. It's been a really contagious bug, or maybe multiple bugs, multiple viruses, and I'm not even talking about the new coronavirus, COVID-19. I'll get back to that in just a sec. I've got a couple of comments about that, but even just the typical cold and flu season type viruses have been particularly contagious, and not only that, it's been pretty severe. Like, it knocks people out, not just for 3 or 4 days, but maybe 3 or 4 weeks. And then even in some people, they get like a double dip kind of thing where maybe they never quite get over it. They get a little bit better, and then something happens and the virus, isn't totally out of their system and is allowed to like replicate in their system, and all of a sudden they're sick again. So I've seen this happen multiple times, and so I thought I'd just address a few points in that regard, and kind of some things that you want to think about in general. First of all, just the real kind of obvious things, like you want to make sure that you're washing your hands, you're staying away from people that have a fever or cough or recently sick, or even just have kind of early onset symptoms, sore throat, stuffiness, achiness, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the first line, is you just want to decrease your exposure, because who knows what your immune system is going to do. So you really just want to make sure to decrease exposure, wash your hands, especially after you've been in public places. All the things that you would find on the Centers for Disease Control, CDC website, and the World Health Organization. Definitely check out their websites. We've got great graphics and lists of basic things that you should be doing every day. Including, they don't go into this in a lot of depth, but there's some general information, and I certainly agree with this and recommend this often. You got to really make sure your nutrition is really tip-top. During the season, we know that foods that have added sugars to it are really immunosuppressive. Just not that much sugar can cause your immune system to be suppressed for hours after consuming it. So you want to stay away from anything that has added sugar in it. And of course, there's lots of like fake names of sugar. Make sure there's no added sucrose or fructose or glucose. All the oses are sugar, and so you want to stay away from those. No foods with any added sugar, no sweets. You got to stay away. We also know that that really puts a person on kind of a blood sugar roller coaster, including how it affects your sleep. And so that's another key thing. Just a basic fundamental kind of health exercise is having good sleep. And it's amazing what sleep does for the immune system. And so that also includes alcohol. Unfortunately, alcohol, first of all, alcohol and the way alcohol affects the sleep is probably why there's a flu season in the first place, because we have the holidays, people are eating pretty crappy foods, probably drinking more alcohol than they would. And that, we know, very significantly disrupts normal sleep patterns. And then so sleep is off, the immune system gets suppressed even more. And then, you're around people that you might otherwise be in close quarters. It's cold, people are stressed out, and there you go, there's your flu season. So viruses are allowed to be passed around a lot easier, and people's immune systems are more suppressed. So we become more, susceptible hosts to all these opportunistic pathogens and viruses that are floating on around us. There's also some things people always ask me about supplements. So those are the key things that I just talked about. Those have to be the base of what you want to do. But there are some supplements. We know that vegetables are where all the micronutrients are. So you got to make sure and really have, a solid amount of vegetables every single day. And if you're not getting quite the amount that you're supposed to, 5 to 9 servings of vegetables per day, then I use, and I would suggest that you consider using New Green's superfood powder, which it's considered, gives you a significant portion of your daily vegetables. So New Green's is New Green's minted. There's New Green's berry. Really great, and really add to that just extra amount of vegetable servings per day. And also just focusing on sleep. Oftentimes what happens with sleep issues is cortisol is too high, and there's a problem with what we call the HPA axis, hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, and cortisol oftentimes gets stimulated, and cortisol has kind of a excitatory kind of thing in our system. It kind of wakes us up. And so if our cortisol is high before bed, or if our cortisol pops up in the middle of the night, it's going to be difficult to fight through that to fall back asleep. So if you're having this problem, first of all, work on your blood sugar balance, get sugars out, choose good, healthy, whole foods. But there's a product that I'll sometimes recommend called phosphatidylserine. Sometimes we call it PS. Phosphatidylserine is a nutrient that helps to modulate cortisol release. And so I find that to be helpful in some people who are having some sleeping issues. So there's a couple supplements that would be a good idea, in addition to all the basic kind of foundational things that we just talked about. So just a quick note on COVID-19, the novel or the new coronavirus. And so we're learning things kind of moment by moment. So what I'd really probably suggest that you do is you frequently visit the CDC website and also the WHO, the World Health Organization website. They're putting really current information as they learn about it. So I certainly don't have anything really new other than what these websites tell us. I also pay attention and just kind of have the page open and refresh it frequently. The New England Journal of Medicine. The New England Journal of Medicine, typically the articles are not free to the public, but they're making a lot of them free, especially the ones that have to do with COVID-19. And they're giving us a better understanding of the virulence and kind of the effect that COVID-19 is having on the population. We know now that the way that there's kind of a numeric value that informs us of how contagious a virus is. It's called R sub 0. And so they indicated in some recent research, just I think last week, that has COVID-19 has an R sub 0 of 2.2, which means that each person that gets it is going to infect 2.2 other people. And so an R sub 0 greater than 1 is a very spreadable virus. So, and we've been seeing that in the news. You've seen that now that there's more new cases that are being diagnosed outside of China than inside of China. So obviously that's not a good sign. So pay attention to those websites to really tell you what to do if it seems to kind of hit your community. It's not just the normal virus kind of level of illness. It seems to be so far a little bit worse than that, because if you take the typical flu season, like it has like a certain death rate that is lower than 1%, and it seems that COVID-19 has a mortality rate of about 1%, so it's a little bit higher. Maybe because it's a new virus and people's immune systems haven't figured out what to do with it yet. But it's deadly and people are dying. A lot of people are not dying. Obviously, way more people are not dying from it than dying from it, but it can be lethal for certain people. It seems to be slightly older people, maybe like in their 60s or higher, and certainly increased risk factor if they already have an underlying health condition. So those are a few things about the COVID-19. You have to follow a lot of the same practices that we just talked about for just normal flu season, but pay attention to the websites about the latest information. Especially, they'll keep us up to date about if it enters into certain communities, and you might have to really increase your awareness and your activities to prevent you, your family and friends and loved ones from contracting the virus. But all those things that we just talked about absolutely apply to things about nutrition and washing your hands and staying away from sick people and getting good sleep, keeping the sugar and alcohol down so that the sleep is as high quality as you can, because like we've talked about before, sleep is just like the Swiss Army knife for health. It's ridiculous. Even just one night of a short sleeping session, in other words, under like 6.5 hours, it's called a short sleeping session, and that can significantly influence your immune system. But as you start to accumulate more days of good quality and good quantity sleep, that's really, really helpful for your immune system. So we talked about those supplements and basic, kind of things that you should do every single day. And this has been a challenging flu season. We're not out of the woods yet. It usually ends in maybe April. So we'll see how it goes this season, but do as much as you can so that you can really start to get ahead of it and decrease the chance that you get this virus and the other viruses floating around. So hopefully that's helpful. I'll keep reading the studies and bringing you the information. Until then, keep it real.